Good morning once again, viewers. It is Fine TV Gambia, your only viewpoint. Right now, we are on our way to the Kunta Kinteh Island to make some inquiries about Kunta Kinteh.
Following our last episode on the expedition trip to Jufre and Albreda, Fine TV team finally reached Albreda, now in the boat, sailing the ocean waters to get to the Kunta Kinteh Island. The reason why Kunta Kinteh Island is important in our this expedition is because of its relation to slave trade and its abolition. History has revealed to us that when Kunta Kinteh was captured in Jufre, his hometown, James Island was the place where he was kept before he was transported to America. Follow us as we approach the Kunta Kinteh Island to get you first-hand information about Kunta Kinteh, who was believed to have been captured at the age of 17 by slave masters to be taken to America to be used as a slave.
We are on our way to the Kunta Kinteh Island, a place where Kunta Kinteh was captured and kept before being sent to America for slavery. That is the exact island that we are sailing to. And as you can see through the images you are seeing, you are actually seeing the waters. We are sailing through the waters towards the particular island that our aim is to get to today.
Well, good afternoon, wonderful viewers, wherever you might be watching us from. Just to remind you that you're watching Fine TV, your only viewpoint. As my colleague said earlier on, today we are here at the Port Kunta Kinteh Island, normally or formerly called the James Island or the St. Andrews Island, which is more than 30 kilometers from the mouth of the river Gambia. It is located at the north bank of the Gambia, which is around the Nyumi end.
They take the people from the mainland, they transport them inside the fort here. The more the slaves are kept here, they couldn't escape. But today, the site we are standing, this is the new landing point. The first landing of the island used to be the other side of the island. Later we will get down there, but from here we will get under the roof, and that's how we're going to show you the map of the island, how the fort was bigger before. So the island, it was bigger than this twice. But due to the condition of the erosion of the water, the fort was getting small now. And it means the Portuguese are the ones who built this one? No, the island was built by the Latvia. Latvia, these are the people from the Baltic Germans. Courland, these are the people who built the fort. And the metal pole you can see here, during the time of the roof time, because now in our country here, every 2 years, we get the festival here. A lot of black from Europe came back to the Africa, they celebrate the culture of the roof. So during of this festival, the Gambia government want to know how many countries are pertaining to the festival. They have their nationality flag. The front one, that's where the Gambia flag used to be Russia.
When was this particular island founded? This Kunta Kinteh Island and likewise Jufre, when were these two places found?
Anyway, I think sometimes people misunderstood that at one point, just a point of clarity, that is the island and the fort. The island itself is natural. Nobody will know actually how the island actually been here. But we know we all came and find it. But the fort itself was built by the Portuguese in Latvians in 1651. The modern Latvia is the very country that built the fort. But then before, they were called Courland. That's called Courland. In other language, they call it Courland. In English, we call it Courland. And today, it becomes the modern country called Latvia in 1650. They were the very people who built the fort. And Jufre, we'll say what we find in history, they were villages that were found in the 13th centuries. So the villages have been there for 600 years plus or more than that, you know. That's what we find in history.
You please tell us who is Kunta Kinteh and why is Kunta Kinteh so special in the Gambian history and in the history of the world?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. What's your name again, Mr. Ba? Thank you very much for that wonderful question. Anyway, Kunta Kinteh become very well known and very special and unique in the Gambian history and around the world, because not only been the only person adopted or enslaved from this country, Gambia or other part of the world, but because of his generations, when he was taken to America, become some of the first African Americans who are able to come back to this homeland of Africa in the Gambia and in the village of Jufure to come and trace back their roots since he was adopted into slavery in 1767, taken to America where he was sold. So for that man being there, and in fact not only because the tracing of the roots, but Kunta Kinteh become very well known because he has been somebody who has been very revolting since he was being adopted to slavery, brought to this island here. These are some of the people who have been kept in a special dungeon to be well taken care of and to be punished physically and mentally. And with all those struggles he has gone through and take down to America, where that led to his amputation, and then till he has been translating his information to his other daughter, the first daughter, and then till the other generations like Alex Haley. So we're able to use this tool to come down to Africa to trace back through when he come in connection with the Ibumanga, who is a Gambian. Then he was going to America and studies called Ibumanga, who was able to lead him to this country. And when he has gone through 12 years residing in America, he was able to come to this country to come and trace back his roots back in 1967. So that makes Kunta Kinteh become very popular and unique and Alex Haley respective, and this very family of Kunta. But there are thousands of Gambians and Africans, or millions taken into
But
slavery.
the thing is, there are so many people who are currently debating on this issue of this whole story of Kunta Kinteh. There are people saying it is fiction, and others are saying it is not fiction. Like others are saying it is just a fabrication which was just acted or just to how to call it attract more audience. But this is not a true story. What do you have to say about that?
Yes, I think what I feel important thing that we need to understand, Alex Haley, what we have in our customs, in our tradition that we inherit, of one way of living history was traditional history, is oral history that we pass from one generation to the other. And then if you look at the most of the history in this country, either books whatsoever, most of them had come to that particular point and were being established into written history. And then most of these were few of them were in Arabic scripts, but some were directly interpreted by historians. And actually, I think the only people who insisted would say he has not gone through DNA test. But when do we have these scientific proofs coming into his history? It's just current. But what we actually have, we believe Kunta Kinteh has traced Israeli descendants.
Historians have told us that Kunta Kinteh hailed from Jufre, that he is actually from Jufre. What do you say to these clips?
Yes, Kunta Kinteh is hailed from Jufre, but then it may disturb some. Some may get it confused simply because looking at the village, its location, and looking at its current settlement, how the houses are and everything looks different. But Jufre actually is not the right settlement where Kunta Kinteh was captured. Jufre has shifted for 3 occasions there in the third settlement. As you will know, in those days, villages were too small, and the populations are also very small sizes, and they mostly live in thatch houses. So Jufre have shifted during their advent slavery, when they have gone through a lot of those troubles like raiding their villages, getting their people adopted into slavery. So they have to shift for 3 occasions, so they're in the third settlement. So Kunta Kinteh's family were Mandingos who came from Mali Empire originally. And it was just after the collapse of the empire, they came into this country here, Gambia. And then after being living in Kiangifarung, they finally came to the north bank of the Gambia, where they came to settle in the village of Jufre. So where this grandfather settled, Kairaba Kunta Kinteh eventually got married there. And then he had a son who was called Amoro, who became the father of Kunta Kinteh. After when he also got to the age of marrying, and he got married and he had 4 sons, and Kunta became his eldest son, who was born in 1750. But of course, Kunta also had 3 other brothers. These were Lamin, Swebu, and Madi. So this family that we have in the village, that makes the 7 generations actually met, and the current 8 generations we have in the village, these are the descendants from those 3 brothers of Kunta Kinteh, since he was adopted into slavery.
So students might tend to be confused, because the size of this island seems very small. And from movies, we've watched the capturing of Kunta Kinteh was done on a bigger land. And was Kunta Kinteh actually captured on this particular island, or was he captured from the other end of Jufure?
Yes, Kunta Kinteh was not captured on this island. This island was just a main point of shipment for people adopted into slavery from this country, the Gambia. It's one of their main shipments. Wherever you might be captured, either from the interior of the countryside or from the northern bank of the river Gambia or in the south. So once they are captured, they are brought to this island as a main ship. But Kunta Kinteh was captured away from the village Jufure, where he was been assigned to do some collection of firewood according to history. And this moment when he was unfortunately been adopted into slavery and brought to this island here, where he has to await for his shipments with his colleagues in this very island we are, Kunta Kinteh Island.
Okay, and I hope that students learning history will actually know that Kunta Kinteh was not actually captured in the Kunta Kinteh Island. Instead, he was captured on the mainland of Jufure, where he said was sent to go and fetch firewood, and was captured and was sent to the Kunta Kinteh Island, where he awaits his ship.
Before wasting much time, I would like to proceed on the second question, which is, there are so many people also arguing or asking if it is true that Binta, the mother of Kunta Kinteh, actually narrated the story to Alex Haley.
Alex Haley, no, the person who narrated the story was called Keba Kanyi Fofana. This was one of the husbands of the late Kunta Kinteh. This is one of those oral historians, and because the part of the family history of this Kunta Kinteh family was partly said to be in Arabic script. Because during the movement of people from Mali Empire, his grandfather was said to shift first in North African Mauritania, where he embarked on Islamic studies. It was after his completion that he also came down to this part of Africa, especially in Senegal, to come and live in Gambia here. So when Alex Haley was here, it was Keba Kanyi Fofana who narrated the story, and part of the story he narrated was being founded in Arabic script.
Oh, okay, so it is also clear that Binta was not the one who narrated the story to Alex Haley.
Good. So we move on. Kunta Kinteh, if I heard you well from your narration, you said that Kunta Kinteh came back to trace his roots from Jufure. Alex Haley. Oh, okay, Alex Haley. So can you please take us through as to the death of Kunta Kinteh? How did Kunta Kinteh actually died?
Kunta Kinteh actually, when he was adopted into slavery, from here he was taken to America, where he was sold until he was later have his daughter, and then gradually develop his family there. He was living there till we get into the era of when the humanitarians, politicians, even African kings started the fight against slavery to be abolished, till Europeans also started coming, like countries like Britain and other countries gradually would follow, until we have countries like America also. So it was just at that beginning part of slavery getting abolished. Kunta Kinteh eventually died in 1821 in America, where he was being buried.
How and when was Kunta Kinteh captured by the slave masters?
Yes, Kunta Kinteh was captured in born in 1767, where he was just sent by his family to only look for the firewood that they will be cooking their meal, where he finally get captured into slavery was in 1767, and then finally brought to this very island where we are standing right now.
Okay, my final question will be this before I pass the baton to my colleague journalist. And this is, do Kunta Kinteh have a close relatives that are still in Jufure? I mean, people that could be said are descendants, I mean, close descendants of this great man, Kunta Kinteh.
Yes, indeed, he has, like I just said to you previously, because when Kunta Kinteh was being adopted into slavery, because he has other three brothers, who was Lamin, Swaibu, and Mahdi. So these three brothers, this is the family of those people that are left behind here after many years of generations that Alex Haley was able to come back to his country here. That's the 7 generations he met of those three brothers left in the Gambia by the Kunta Kinteh. But yet still, you know, Gambia, we have this extended family system. So when the other generations there, another one succeeds. So in the village now, we have the 8 generations. One of them is Aji Mariama Fofana, and then one of his brother also, who is called Usman Kinteh. These are the ones on the throne right now at the family home of Kunta Kinteh.
All right, I will proceed to my last question. Let me say, does Alex Haley have any problem with the Kunta Kinteh family? Do they have any problem while he was with them?
No, Alex Haley had never had any problem with the family, because I've never come across to say the family. Of course, what many people just only claim is what those are people's personal opinion that would say how much, if by coming to the village, looking at the family, where they live, looking at their standards, and looking at what Alex Haley might inherit from the movie and the book, most people will say what has been flowed back to the family. This is only the point of contention, if I could put it, knowing that there's an issue within Alex Haley and the family here. I've never come, but the only point of contention, but people express it. But I've never even been told about this part. But also, I believe those things Alex Haley has done his best, according to the knowledge I have, because according to Alex, those things, Alex Haley, the phone he's generated, one, he has found that his people were Muslims. And he started a mosque, which wasn't completed till he's dead. And eventually it was Louis Farrakhan, the nation of Islam, who come to accomplish that mission. That's why in Jufure, there's a mosque that has been sponsored by Louis Farrakhan in 1995, if I'm not right. And then according to history, there were many other things that he did But because in those days we don't have many people, communication was a problem. It was very poor in those days, in those early days. So most of these things were coming maybe through the government or into wrong hands, who were not getting the right things to the family. So even the village in general, neither the family, has not actually had what they should be enjoying from the Alexelis wealth. So this is the point actually I know about it.
Well, thank you very much. I am very much convinced with the question I asked and the answers you gave in return. Anyways, I wouldn't want to waste much time, rather. I will then hand over the baton to my colleague again to continue with the questions they have. Thank you so much.
And also, my second question goes, did Kunta Kinteh ever escaped when he was taken to America? Did he ever escape from his slave masters?
No, he has never escaped. He has been escaped, and then he was captured in many times, and that finally would have to lead to his amputation. That's why he was amputated. So till there, after his amputation, there was a lady called Belle who was been very supportive to him. They two were privileged to get married.
Thank you so much. Due to his always escaping, this was the reason why they decided to amputate his legs. All right, thank you so much for that, Mr. Karawak. Really, I'm very, very much happy with those beautiful answers. Thank you.
Really on the platform here, this is how what show you the original architectural work, how the whole side was. So that's the very point we are standing right now here. So looking at this point, this one behind you here, that's why we have one of the bastums, and we have the other bastums there, and then at the fore corner we have bastums there. But below these bastums, that's why we got some dungeons where some of the people they brought in, or enslaved the Gambians, they brought them inside there. But these are people they call the aggressive, but they were just people who were revolting just because they want to get free from slavery to get back to their families and loved ones. So those dungeons are within, below these bastums, and this is the water point here, where we have the water for the fort, which is either from the rainwater or water collected from San Domingo. But this point there is the original entry point into the fort, which is at the other side there. But because erosion, that's why the harbor has been shifted down here, but this serves as the main entry point and the main slave here. And that's why you have the kitchen that was being used by the governor's people, because this is what lead you into their main residence, where all the powers were living before the island got abandoned in 1830. And then in here, that's why the governor's residence. And on top here also, we'll be looking at one of the cannon because been brought here by the French people during the occupation in the 17th century. And this one we'll be seeing on top there become the last one that was brought here by the British after they coming back to they occupied the island in the 18th century to reinforce the abolition of slavery. Was the last cannon they brought in here. So here where we're standing, this is where water mark is right now here. The water mark. All these points you can see has gone in water already, the whole side. And this is the other part of the stores of the island where some other slaves have been kept, like some of the women who were conceived and some of the men who are very, very strong, because the stronger ones are all gone. And so those dungeons, just to give them physical and mental tortures, to weaken them so that by the time they transported them, they wouldn't cause any threat, because they understand Africans become very revoltant, and then that would lead them to lose about every 100%, 13 to 3% of slaves on board. So on that reason, that's why they have to get them here to physical and mental torture to weaken them before it comes the time of their shipment. Thank you. All right, so this is actually, you can see this signage here, the board here. This is the date and the very date that the Kunta Island was changed to Kunta Kinteh Island, because like I told you, from 1450, 56, it was called Andrews Island, which is a Portuguese name. And then right to the 1661, it was also become James Island, which is a British name after James Duke of York. But actually, the white people were taking legacy of their own people. So that's why the government of Gambia and the stakeholders felt there was a need, actually also trying to keep our own legacy of our people. So Kunta Kinteh being one of those people well known in the Gambia around the world for other generations coming. So that's why the name was that became to Kunta Kinteh, to keep his legacy for other incoming generations as well. So that's now we are walking inside the fort itself. And the fort is also been built of few materials. Some of the major materials are rock. This rock is called laterite, it's not volcanic. And the white one you can see in the mix that bind them together is mortar. Mortar is like from the cells of oysters. And the red one you can see at the other end, the firestones. The firestones were said to be a ballast. Ballast why like if ships are gone, they're coming back now, they have to fill them with these firestones to make them more stabilized on water. So anytime they arrive at this part of the island, they will have to collect slaves now. They would have to get these ones and use them in the construction of the fort. This is leading also. This is one of the bastums. The bastums are the points on the higher points of the island where they place cannon for defending the fort against all directions, because the island is actually surrounded by Gambia on both sides. That is the northern bank, because like if you cross from Banjul, we are in the north, so Banjul is right in the south. So this is just Fonyi on this other side here. Fonyi benefit is just about 30 minutes you can cross to Fonyi benefit. So that's why these cannons have been placed on the bastion to defend the fort from any external aggression. And this is one of the bastions, and below the bastion, that's where we have one of the dungeons. This is one of the dungeons where many of our great ancestors, who could have been everything for this country, were fighting for the emancipation from slavery or freedom from slavery, for leaving their beautiful family back in the villages, but only bringing them there to enslave them here, where they were brought in just to physically and mentally torture, because these are the people they expect. They call them aggressive, but these are the people they expect they will be revolted, because they knew if they should be left the physical nature they are without taking them through those physical and mental tortures to weaken them before the end of their fortnight or so, before they're taken away here, they could be very dangerous on the slave ship. So that's why they have to bring them here. And the reason was to bring them here so that at least they could be put on chains on their legs and hands, and to be according them meals once every day. So that once they've been here, they've gone through those physical and mental tortures. At the end of the day, they become very weak. So therefore, they wouldn't have any strength anymore once they've been taken on board the slave to start their journey. They wouldn't become any more problem for the slave masters. So that's why they've been brought here. So this is why people like Kunta Kinteh, who were well known even the time of their adoption, even before they're taken this way, where they've all made their life through, and many other great sons and daughters of this country who become very revoltant, who are very concerned about their family, as they were not from slave families, nothing but they have all been enslaved forcefully against their own will, separate from their families. So this is the place of those people who have been physically and mentally tortured in what way possible in their own homeland, even before their departure. And this becomes the only meeting point for providing them their meals, because according to the masters, they only come in close contact with these people on two occasions. One is the first day they have to bring them here, and the last day they will have to take them out here just to get them to the slave yard, prepare them to be loaded and taken away. But otherwise, according to the master, they will never come in group. And this is mostly would have to go through what we call overloading process. Because once the orders have to come from the other part of the country, like Janjam or other places, to be finally shifted here for the shipment to start, so the place become overloaded, and there is no point that they would have to let slaves to go home because the place is filled up. The only thing that can set you free is death. Because once you die, this is the time they have to just pick you, dump you into the water. 1763, when this fort has gone through numerous wars and destruction that led to the fort to be destroyed for 7 occasions and rebuilt again. So this was one of the cannon that they brought in here to reinforce their occupation here. So today it's known to be one of the oldest cannons. But indeed, the ones on the surface here, but because still we have more cannons lying in water when there's some of the evidence could be seen when the water is low tide, you can see some of the cannons, few of the cannons inside the water there. And on top there, the other far end there, you can see the cannon there. That cannon also became the last cannon that was also being brought down to the island here by the British. Because after numerous years of slavery, when the fort was abolished, and eventually till we got, when slavery was abolished in Britain, and they started what we call repatriation, because they wouldn't know the origin of these people. So the only thing they could do is to bring them back to countries like Province of Freedom, which today called Freetown, the capital of Sierra Leone. And then further, they decided to send their men to the various coast of Africa to start intercepting illegal traders. So coming to the Gambia, their first point of settlement was in the village of Albreda, where we have the field and flag post, which was built there. And then later, from there, the field was, the river was wider. The cannon was not able to cross fire. So the field here was better, which is right in the heart of the Gambia River, so that they can disallow illegal ships coming in or going out. So after being here for many years later, they had to pay attention to the mouth of the Gambia River. That is what led to the founding of Banjul, our capital, in 1816 by the British people. That they call it Bathurst, named after Lord Bathurst. And then finally, 1821, they built a point called Siscon Battery, which is right now in the State House. It's unfortunate because of it's part of the presidential palace. It's not been accessed by either students or visitors to go and see the Siscon Battery. And then after building that Siscon Battery also, they realized that Banjul is far from Barra. So in Barra also, they have to build another point, which is today called Fort Bullen, built in 1826, which is named after Charles Bullen. So after the fort was built, the fourth year later, in 1830, that was when the British finally had to abandon this island to move their attention to those two sides, in Banjul and Barra, to reinforce abolition of slavery. But what makes this island also become very unique and special in Africa, because it has been used for the days of slavery. At the same time, it has been reused again to abolish slavery. So that makes it very unique and important, especially in Africa. So, and
you said one of the
cannons
have been taken away sometime ago, and things cannot be clean. So can you take us to as to when this cannon was taken, and if you have any background as to who do you think will actually take this cannon, and what should be done to ensure that
Anyway, I think for us now, I think this is more than 4 years now. But actually, we wouldn't know, we wouldn't want to finger point to say who actually become the culprit, whether we didn't have any background, because a lot of people comes in here, fishermen comes here, visitors, sometimes you got visitors comes in here who they come from all angles because it's open. Sometimes you can come here, nobody will be aware of it. So nobody can finger point to anyone. But we know that there is an evidence from the other side that we have cannons, almost 4 of cannons, so one of them get disappeared. But the other point is, I think one thing important is how do we protect and preserve these important artifacts. I think one, it's important to have a security base, and then there to be a national issue, a national press release to say anybody coming to step into this island here must pass through the people who are responsible before you come in here on your own. Because if not, people can come from every side. Those people there who is one of the custodians of the island or one of the side manager wouldn't know. Unless you come here, you find people sitting here. But otherwise, I think there should be only a national press release to inform all the stakeholders in the country, especially those in tourism who comes here, either fishermen or whatsoever, apart from the fishermen. But other than that, whoever is coming here has to pass through the people who are taking care of the fort, so that this guy issued with the ticket, and to know that you guy is been here for so and so period. Yes, indeed, that has been done because securities have been tracking for it. But sometimes these things it's very difficult to find it out because you have these people who recycle these metals everywhere. You have them abundant here. So we wouldn't know. You have people who come every angle to get this metal. So and these cannons, sometimes it's special because they needed it. So this is one of those machines they will need most than those small light ones. So of course, I think attention needs to be paid very well and support NCSC very well because of course there should be a security here, either a day or night. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Okay, so this is where we are, almost coming to the final leg of a visit. So this cannon you can see right in the front of me here. This is one of the last cannon, like I told you. The fort becomes special in Africa because it was used during the days of slavery. At the same time, the fort was reused again as a point of abolishing slavery. So this cannon we can see here, right in front of me here, is one of the last cannon that was actually brought to the fort here for suppressing slavery in the Gambian River. And then this becomes the last cannon the British also brought here before they were kindly abandoning this island from moving down to the mouth of the Gambia, which is Banjul, which then was called Batos, and then Fort Bele in Bara. And then they finally got abandoned this island in 1830. And there also, this one, the metal you just saying, this metal is not, it wasn't part of the fort. It was just currently put there after slavery was over. This was just a tower light. Then we used to have ships traveling the Gambia River, crossing from Banjul, going to Lady Killen, Lady Ride, and stuff like that. Maybe there are many people who know about that. Yes. Yes. And according to some of them can go more than 100 meters. They can go more than 100 meters or 200 meters. It depends on the size. This is where you can see the slave yard. This is some of the temporary shelters provided in the slave yard for women. They were conceived because due to the economic values at the start of slavery, the women they will end up having babies. So why the mother would be sold, the baby would be sold. So have to give them a lot of comfort and other requirements. So that's the point. I think that when the island is overnumbered, and also because when we have these climate differences, because the climate has not been very favorable to them, so they have to bring them as a temporary shelter in this particular point. And that's the kitchen where I was making telephone call the other end there where I show you. And this is the part of the first toilet, and that's what led you to the entrance of the governor's people. So that's the very point where we are standing on top here, one of the bustums where we have this cannon, and this is the oldest cannon I show you, the other far end there. So that's the other part in the western side of the fort, which was been stores for women, some of the women and some of the men who were very strong, where they've been kept. And this is the assembly of cannon that we saw at the entry point there, where we have this number of cannons, but one of them gets disappeared from there. Since then, it's not a different. And that's the hut where we have the students being gathered down there. So on that note, I thank you very much for your wonderful presence here, and we thank you also very grateful to see Fine TV for being one of those very TVs coming to do this follow-up to educate our people, because